Sticks and stones may break my bones, put on a cast, and they'll heal back together. But the words you say could wound my spirit today and then echo in my mind forever. Kind of the opposite of the saying that you might have grown up with, but that's really how I feel. And it's been a minute since I posted, but I want to talk about the importance of language. It's just something that I posted about in the past, but what is really the key thing is the idea of dying by suicide versus committing suicide. I was not enlightened to this until about a year ago when I met somebody whose child had died by suicide as a teenager. I always grew up with the term committed suicide, never thought anything of it. Even though, because I'm somebody who's sensitive to words, it always did kind of seem to me like a harsh, like there's like a judgment in there, right? Like somebody committed a crime, and never mind any possible spiritual beliefs that people may or may not have about that. There's a judgment involved, and yet the term die by suicide is a much more accurate description, and I can't fully pretend to understand, but I just think about it like this. How distraught and hopeless and upset and just ill, suffering, beyond suffering, depressed, so on and so forth, would I have to be to think that ending my life as it is right this moment would be the only option, the best option. It isn't selfish, it isn't any other kind of judgment. It's, I don't even know how to, I don't pretend to understand, but it's suffering. It's a cause of death. As an individual with bipolar disorder, I tend to be on the up end of things. And so I've only had major depression once, twice probably in my life. And there's probably been one time in my life ever that I wanted to die and I knew I wouldn't carry it out. I read a really startling statistic the other day that almost 100% of adults at some point in their life will consider suicide. And so I'm just raising that awareness because it was raised to me. The words that we say matter, especially if there is somebody that you meet who had somebody in their life die by suicide. To choose to use that term, killing oneself, I personally think that maybe that's a neutral term because maybe that is just it's the fact, but it definitely doesn't capture the full essence of it. It is a cause of death. I mean, God, I don't want to say anything that is irresponsible here. Is it a choice? Is it not a choice? If you are listening to this and you are having thoughts of ending your life, please call 911, reach a mental health crisis line, call a friend, get help. If you think that if you have contemplated a plan, if you have a means, or if there's somebody in your life that you think might be, ask them the questions. Are you thinking of ending your life? Are you thinking of suicide? Are you having suicidal thoughts? It's not always the thoughts from what people in my life have shared with me they're not always wanted thoughts. They're like intrusive, and even if the person doesn't like want to or intend to act on it, sometimes it gets so bad that feels like the only way out. And I have somebody in my own life that opened up to a friend about having a means, being alone and having the opportunity, and this friend of my friend called the police on them. Now, was my friend upset and mad and pissed off at the time? Oh yeah. And yet, after they got out of that moment, they were like, well, I was pissed at you, but actually you probably saved my life, because I probably very likely might have gone through with it. And another statistic that I heard was that with bipolar individuals, the most common suicide attempts that end in death don't happen in the depths of a major depression, as what I think most people would think, but in a mixed episode. And this is possibly because in the depths of a major depression, maybe just the energy isn't even there. Whereas with to go and do the act. Whereas with a mixed episode, it's like the hopeless depression along with the agitation and the restlessness of the mania. Like, I gotta do something. So that is dangerous. I recommend books by Kay Jamison for some enlightenment on this, but I should have given this disclaimer at the beginning. I give it at all of my videos, but I am not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I don't pretend to give medical advice. Nothing that I say, honestly, should be construed as medical advice. I am an individual, a health educator, but mainly I am on this channel speaking as a woman in long-term recovery with co-occurring disorders, with bipolar disorder, in recovery from addictions. They're like two sides of the same coin. And it's been a minute since I posted. There's been a lot going on in the world. But I had to break out of my own shell today in case this could help anyone. I wrote this little poem myself. I'm going to say it again. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Put on a cast and they'll fuse back together. But the words you say could wound my spirit today and then echo in my mind forever. So to me, that is a lot more accurate than the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever had somebody say something horrible to you, and then years later, sometimes you can still hear it. So just be sensitive to that. A member of my extended family died by suicide today. And it was just heart-wrenching and shocking and just so sad. This is November 2020 when I'm recording this, and of course we are in the midst of this pandemic. But I've said it before here, and I will continue to say it, that mental illness is it's the secondary pandemic right now. And so this is the real deal, man. It might not seem that important to split hairs to say, oh, you're so-and-so committed suicide versus they died by suicide. But just let the words sit with you for a minute and think about the potential judgment attached to one and the compassion attached to the other. And think about how just one little word or gesture can make or break a person's day. The survivors of people who died by suicide. So that is my message for today. Take care of yourselves and each other. Remember, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help anyone else. And if you are suffering, please do yourself and your loved ones a favor and reach out for help. I'm going to leave some resources down below. God bless. This too shall pass. Thanks for listening.